The moment you started watching this video is already in the past, and the end of this sentence hasn't happened yet. But right now, this exact moment, it's gone before you can even grasp it. So here's the question that will shake everything you think you know. What if I told you that time itself might be the greatest illusion ever created by the human mind? The past is just a memory, the future is only a prediction, and the present? It slips through our fingers like water. But if none of these truly exist, what are we actually living in? The illusion of time. Does the past or future really exist? Let's start with something that might blow your mind. Right now, somewhere in the universe, time is moving at a completely different speed than it is for you. And that's not science fiction. That's Einstein's reality. Think about your childhood home. In your mind, it's real. You can walk through those rooms, hear the creaking floorboards, smell the familiar scents. But where does that home exist right now? Only in your memory. Time is something we all take for granted. We live by it, plan our lives around it, and feel its weight every single day. But is time really what it seems? Philosophers and scientists have spent centuries unraveling this mystery. Some argue that time is an illusion, a construct of our minds. Others suggest it's a fundamental part of the universe's fabric. Today, we'll explore this question through the eyes of three great thinkers: St. Augustine, Albert Einstein, and Martin Heidegger. And here's the twist. What if the past and future aren't even real? What if the only truth lies in the present moment? Let's find out. St. Augustine, time as a human construct. We begin with St. Augustine, the 4th century philosopher and theologian. Augustine was one of the first thinkers to deeply question the nature of time. He famously wrote in his Confessions, "What then is time? If no one asks me, I know what it is. If I wish to explain it to him who asks, I do not know." For Augustine, time was deeply tied to the human experience. He argued that the past doesn't exist in any tangible way. It exists only in our memories. Similarly, the future is merely a product of our imagination, a mental construct of what we think might happen. So, what about the present? Augustine believed even the present is fleeting, vanishing the very moment we try to grasp it. Think about it. What exactly is the present? Is it this second? This millisecond? As soon as we try to measure it, it slips away. To Augustine, time exists only in the human mind, as a way for us to make sense of our existence. Without us, time might not exist at all. Einstein, the relativity of time. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we meet Albert Einstein. While Augustine viewed time as a mental construct, Einstein brought a scientific perspective that changed everything. His theory of relativity revealed that time isn't fixed, it's flexible and relative. Einstein showed that time is intertwined with space, forming what we now call space-time. In this framework, time can stretch, compress, or even stand still, depending on factors like speed and gravity. For example, time moves slower for someone traveling close to the speed of light than it does for someone standing still. This phenomenon, called time dilation, has been proven with experiments involving atomic clocks. But here's where it gets even more mind-bending. Einstein's theory suggests that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in what's called a block universe. Imagine time as a loaf of bread. Each slice represents a moment in time, and all slices exist at once. From this perspective, our experience of time as a linear journey from past to future is just an illusion. We're merely moving through the loaf, one slice at a time. Einstein's work challenges our basic understanding of reality. If time isn't linear and the past and future already exist, what does that mean for free will? Are we just following a predetermined path through the slices of space-time? The twist: time as a disconnection. So far, we've seen two perspectives: Augustine's idea that time exists only in the mind, and Einstein's scientific view that time is relative and may already be all there. But here's the twist. What if our obsession with time is actually keeping us disconnected from reality? This is where Martin Heidegger comes in. Heidegger, the experience of time. Martin Heidegger, a 20th century German philosopher, wasn't concerned with clocks or equations. Instead, he focused on how we experience time. For Heidegger, time wasn't just something we measure, it was central to our very existence. Heidegger argued that humans are temporal beings. Our sense of self is deeply tied to time because we're always moving between three modes: remembering the past, anticipating the future, and experiencing the present. But here's the problem. We spend so much time dwelling on what's already happened or worrying about what's to come that we rarely live fully in the present. Heidegger believed this disconnect prevents us from living authentically. He introduced the concept of Dasein, or being in the world, which emphasizes the importance of embracing the present moment. To Heidegger, time isn't an external force. It's something we experience internally, shaping how we live and who we are. The role of death in time. Heidegger also argued that our awareness of death shapes our relationship with time. Knowing that our time is limited gives life its urgency and meaning. Imagine if you had infinite time. Would anything really matter? It's the ticking clock of mortality that pushes us to value certain moments, make decisions, and seek purpose. But here's the paradox. While death makes time meaningful, it also creates anxiety. Heidegger suggested that instead of fearing death, we should use our awareness of it to live more fully in the present. After all, the present is all we truly have. Modern physics suggests something even more radical. At the quantum level, time might not flow at all. Particles can become entangled across time just as they can across space. It's as if time is just another dimension, like up, down, or left, right, with no special direction. But if time is an illusion, why do we experience it so strongly? Why do we remember the past, but not the future? This is where biology meets philosophy. Our brains evolved to perceive time in a way that helps us survive. We remember the past so we can learn from it. We anticipate the future so we can prepare for it. Think of it like this. When you're deeply engaged in something you love, time seems to disappear. When you're bored, every minute feels like an hour. If time were a fundamental part of reality rather than a perception, could it really be so flexible?
The notion that time is an illusion fundamentally disrupts traditional philosophical frameworks surrounding free will, destiny, and purpose, forcing us to re-examine the foundations of human existence. If time, as a linear progression of past, present, and future, is merely a construct of human perception, then the concepts that rely on temporal progression must be redefined. Let's begin with free will, the idea that individuals can make choices independent of external or predetermined forces. In a time-bound worldview, free will operates within a sequence where choices in the present shape the future, and the past informs, but does not fully dictate those choices. However, if time is an illusion, and all moments past, present, and future coexist in a single eternal now, the very structure of decision-making changes. Philosophers like Spinoza and some interpretations of Einstein's block universe theory suggest that everything is already determined, not in a causal chain, but as a fixed, timeless whole. In this view, free will might be an illusion itself, as our choices are already embedded in the fabric of reality, unchanging and inevitable. Yet paradoxically, this timeless perspective could enhance the perception of free will. If we are not bound by a linear progression, every moment becomes an opportunity to act as if choosing anew, unburdened by the weight of an unchangeable past or an inevitable future. This aligns with existentialist ideas, where individuals create meaning through action, regardless of cosmic determinism, that destiny, often understood as a predetermined path unfolding over time, also faces a profound shift in a timeless reality. In a linear framework, destiny implies a trajectory leading to a specific outcome, whether divinely ordained or shaped by cosmic forces. But if time is illusory, destiny cannot be a path unfolding sequentially. Instead, it becomes a state of being that exists eternally. Mystical traditions, such as Advaita Vedanta or certain Buddhist schools, argue that our true nature is timeless, and what we perceive as destiny is merely the unfolding of an already complete reality. This raises questions. Is destiny a fixed point we are drawn toward, or is it the recognition of our timeless essence? For example, in the eternalist view, where all moments coexist, what we call destiny might be the totality of our existence, experienced in fragments by our limited consciousness. This perspective challenges fatalistic views of destiny, suggesting instead that we are always arriving at our destined state, not because it is predetermined, but because it is the unchanging truth of our being. Such a view can be liberating, as it frees us from the anxiety of reaching a specific future and invites us to embrace the present as the full expression of our purpose. Purpose, closely tied to both free will and destiny, becomes equally complex. In a timeless reality, in a time-bound world, purpose is often defined as a goal or meaning pursued over a lifetime, something we work toward through actions and achievements. If time is an illusion, however, purpose cannot be something we attain in the future. It must exist inherently in the present moment. This resonates with existentialist philosophers like Sartre, who argued that meaning is not given but created through our choices. In a timeless framework, purpose becomes less about achieving a future state and more about realizing the significance of the eternal now. For instance, mystical traditions often describe purpose as alignment with a universal truth or consciousness that transcends temporal boundaries. If all moments are one, then living purposefully means fully inhabiting each moment, recognizing its completeness. This shift challenges conventional notions of purpose tied to career, legacy, or long-term goals, urging us to find meaning in the immediate, whether through relationships, creativity, or self-awareness. Yet this also raises difficulties. How do we reconcile a timeless purpose with a world that demands planning and progression? The tension between these perspectives forces us to question whether purpose is a human construct, much like time itself, or a deeper truth we glimpse only when we step outside temporal constraints. The philosophical implications of a timeless reality are profound, as they dismantle the scaffolding of human thought built on temporal assumptions. Free will, destiny, and purpose, when stripped of their linear underpinnings, become less about progression and more about presence, less about control and more about acceptance. These ideas challenge us to rethink our place in the universe, suggesting that our deepest questions about existence may find answers not in the future, but in the eternal moment we inhabit. Practical impact. How recognizing time's illusory nature could change how we live. Prioritize or experience the present, recognizing that time is an illusion has far-reaching practical implications for how we live. Prioritize and engage with the present moment. In a world governed by clocks, schedules, and deadlines, the idea that time is a human construct rather than an absolute reality can transform our approach to daily life. One immediate impact is on how we prioritize tasks and goals. In a time-bound mindset, we often prioritize based on urgency or long-term outcomes, deferring gratification or meaning to a distant future. If time is illusory, however, the distinction between now and later dissolves, urging us to focus on what matters most in the present. For example, instead of postponing meaningful experiences, like spending time with loved ones or pursuing creative passions for a better time, we might prioritize them now, recognizing that the present is the only moment that truly exists. This shift aligns with mindfulness practices, which emphasize full engagement with the current moment, whether through meditation, attentive listening, or savoring simple pleasures. By living as if each moment is eternal, we can reduce the anxiety of chasing future goals and find fulfillment in the here and now, This perspective also reshapes how we experience productivity and work. Modern society often equates busyness with value, tying self-worth to how much we accomplish within a given time frame. If time is an illusion, the pressure to maximize it becomes less relevant. Instead of measuring life by output or milestones, we might focus on the quality of our actions, whether they align with our values or bring joy. For instance, a timeless approach to work might prioritize meaningful contribution over meeting arbitrary deadlines, fostering a sense of purpose that transcends temporal constraints. This could lead to more intentional career choices, where individuals pursue paths that resonate deeply rather than those promising future rewards. Similarly, in education, students might focus on learning for its intrinsic value rather than as a means to a future degree or job, fostering curiosity and creativity. The illusory nature of time also impacts how we experience relationships. In a linear framework, we often view relationships as evolving over time, with past conflicts or future expectations shaping our interactions. A timeless perspective encourages us to treat each encounter as complete in itself, valuing the moment of connection without clinging to past grievances or future hopes. This can deepen empathy and presence in relationships as we listen and engage fully without distraction. For example, a conversation with a friend becomes not just a moment in a timeline, but a self-contained expression of care and understanding. This approach can also reduce regret and nostalgia, as we recognize that the essence of those we love is not confined to past memories, but exists in the eternal now. On a societal level, embracing time's illusory nature could challenge structures built on temporal assumptions, such as economic systems that prioritize growth over sustainability, or legal systems that emphasize punishment over rehabilitation. If the future is not separate from the present, decisions that harm the environment or others for short-term gain lose their justification. Instead, policies might focus on immediate well-being and harmony, reflecting a timeless understanding of interconnectedness. However, implementing this perspective requires overcoming practical barriers, such as the entrenched reliance on schedules and planning. While a timeless mindset encourages living in the moment, it must coexist with the reality of a world that operates on temporal rhythms, necessitating a balance between presence and pragmatism. Challenges to acceptance. Why humans cling to the concept of time, despite its illusory aspects. Despite compelling arguments that time is an illusion, humans cling tightly to the concept, as it is deeply embedded in our biology, psychology, and society. One primary reason is biological. Our brains are wired to perceive time as a linear sequence. Evolutionary processes have shaped our perception to track changes, day and night, seasons and life cycles, to ensure survival. For early humans, timing was critical for hunting, gathering, and avoiding predators, making a temporal framework essential. This hardwired perception persists as our brains organize experiences into a narrative of past, present, and future, creating a sense of continuity. Neuroscientific studies, such as those on the brain's internal clock, show that areas like the suprachiasmatic nucleus regulate circadian rhythms, reinforcing our sense of time's reality. Even when we intellectually grasp time's illusory nature, our biology pulls us back to a linear experience, making it difficult to internalize a timeless perspective. Psychologically, time provides a sense of order and control in an otherwise chaotic existence. The concept of time allows us to create narratives about our lives, giving meaning to events through cause and effect. Despite compelling arguments that time is an illusion, humans cling tightly to the concept, as it is deeply embedded in our biology, psychology, and society. One primary reason is biological. Our brains are wired to perceive time as a linear sequence. Evolutionary processes have shaped our perception to track changes, day and night, seasons and life cycles to ensure survival. For early humans, timing was critical for hunting, gathering, and avoiding predators, making a temporal framework essential. This hardwired perception persists as our brains organize experiences into a narrative of past, present, and future, creating a sense of continuity. Neuroscientific studies, such as those on the brain's internal clock, show that areas like the suprachiasmatic nucleus regulate circadian rhythms, reinforcing our sense of time's reality. Even when we intellectually grasp time's illusory nature, our biology pulls us back to a linear experience, making it difficult to internalize a timeless perspective. Psychologically, time provides a sense of order and control in an otherwise chaotic existence. The concept of time allows us to create narratives about our lives, giving meaning to events through cause and effect. For example, we use the past to explain who we are and the future to project who we might become, creating a coherent sense of self. Without time, these narratives collapse, leaving us with an unsettling sense of groundlessness. Psychological studies on temporal orientation show that people who focus heavily on the future often feel more motivated, but also more anxious, while those who dwell on the past may struggle with regret. A timeless worldview, where all moments are one, can feel disorienting, as it strips away the structure that helps us cope with uncertainty. This fear of losing control makes it challenging to embrace time's illusory nature, as it requires surrendering the familiar framework that shapes our identity. Socially, time is a cornerstone of human civilization, embedded in institutions, economies, and cultures. Clocks, calendars, and schedules govern everything from work to education to social interactions, creating a shared reality that coordinates collective efforts. For instance, global economies rely on synchronized time zones for trade, while legal systems use timelines to establish accountability. Challenging the reality of time threatens these structures, which are deeply ingrained and resistant to change. Cultural narratives also reinforce time's importance, with stories of progress, aging, and achievement all tied to a linear framework. Even spiritual traditions that acknowledge time's illusory nature often adapt to temporal rituals, such as prayer schedules or seasonal ceremonies, to make their teachings accessible. The social utility of time makes its illusory nature hard to accept, as abandoning it could disrupt the systems that hold societies together. Finally, the human experience of mortality is a significant barrier to accepting time's illusory nature. The awareness of a finite lifespan drives much of human behavior, from ambition to legacy building. If time is an illusion, the concept of death as an endpoint loses meaning, which can be both liberating and terrifying. While some might find freedom in a timeless view of existence, others fear it undermines the urgency to live meaningfully. This tension between intellectual understanding and emotional resistance makes it challenging to fully embrace a timeless reality, as it requires confronting deep-seated fears about impermanence and the unknown.
Some scientists like Julian Barber take this even further, suggesting that time, as we perceive it, is an illusion, that there isn't a flow of time, just a static set of moments that are part of what he calls Platonia. The arrow of time is just a byproduct of how we interpret configurations of matter in the universe. This view contrasts sharply with our human experience of time. It's the difference between chronos, measured mechanical time, and tempus, the subjective, flexible time we experience. Our brains, with their imperfections, create this illusion of a continuous flow of time, stitching together discrete sensory inputs into a coherent narrative. The present moment itself is really just a kind of guesswork. So, what does this mean for us? If time is partly an illusion, does that make our experiences any less meaningful? Actually, it might make them more precious, because whether or not the past and future exist in some absolute sense, Our experience of them gives our lives meaning and depth. Concluding thoughts. The next time you find yourself worried about the past or anxious about the future, remember, you exist in this moment, and this moment and this one. Each instant is a new opportunity to experience reality fresh, unburdened by time's supposed limitations. Maybe time isn't a prison we're trapped in, but a tool we've created to make sense of eternity. And understanding that might be the key to living more fully in whatever moment we find ourselves in. Our perception of time may be an illusion shaped by our brains. The universe is not a place where things happen over time, but a structure where time itself is a part of it. It could be that we are trapped in a single frame, unable to see the bigger picture where past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Ultimately, the true nature of time remains a mystery. But whether it's real or an illusion, it shapes our human experience. Instead of focusing on its essence, perhaps we should focus on cherishing the time that we have.